at Down to Earth Garden Center. Today we're going to do a how-to on making kokedama at home. We sell kokedama kits. They look like this. They're $11.99. You can purchase one here if we've got them made. And all you need to do with that is purchase a plant. So when you have your plant and your kokedama kit, then you'll take it apart. The only thing you need to bring from your home, if you're making them, is a good pair of scissors. Nothing fancy. So we are going to open up the kit, which comes with a handy dandy instructional guide on how to make them, how to care for them, and it has some nice helpful hints on the back as well. So definitely make sure to check that out. All right, so we're gonna take out all the moss that is on top. Underneath, you're gonna find a little bag of kokedama mix, which is all-purpose potting soil that has a lot of peat moss and sphagnum moss in it to retain moisture because kokedamas do dry out a little fast. It also contains a little spool of floral wire and a little spool of waxed twine. The waxed twine is great because it doesn't break down as quickly as a non-waxed string when you're soaking them. It also has a coffee filter. This is something you're going to use, don't toss that out. All right, we are going to use the container it came in to soak the soil and the moss. So I'm going to put all the moss on one side, pack it in there, and I'm going to empty the soil into the other side. So the moss should be soaked and squeezed out, and the soil just needs to be moistened. It doesn't need to be soaking or sopping or anything like that. It's just get a little water. You can use a cup or you can use a fancy watering can. And I'm gonna get this nice and saturated. This is a little bit of a messy project, so doing it somewhere that's easier to clean up is probably a good idea. And now that those are soaked, I'm going to wring out my moss and lay it in a circular fashion. Oh, needs a little bit more water. Should be nice and saturated. I'll squeeze out the excess water. I'm gonna start laying this out. You definitely want your biggest pieces to be on the bottom because when you form it into a ball, you don't want any dirt or anything to fall out of the bottom. While I'm doing this, I can talk a little bit more about kokedama. Kokedama is a form of traditional Japanese garden art that has been kind of adapted for modern day and the houseplant craze that seems to be going on. It is literally just wrapping a ball of sheet moss around a plant's roots and then just soaking that to care for it. So it literally translates to moss ball, which is what we're making. You should have a little extra moss in your kit for any holes that you can break apart to kind of cover up some spots. We're gonna take that handy dandy coffee filter and place that on top of our circle of moss. It should be roughly the same size, maybe a little bit bigger than the coffee filter, the circle that you made with the moss. Then you're gonna take your plant, 4-inch pot is what you're looking for with this kit. That's what it's made for. Break off all that extra soil. You don't have to get too violent about this part, but get it a little roughed up, just so that the roots of the plant will take into the new soil a little bit better, and you know that you're starting out with as much of this nice kokedama mix as possible. All right, so then I'm gonna put a dollop of our kokedama mix on top of the coffee filter, and make a nice circle with that. And then I'm gonna place my plants right on top of that and pack just a little bit more soil around the roots. There should be plenty of soil for this. They don't really take that much soil, so shouldn't be too bad. All right, once I have the soil that I want, I'm gonna find that spool of wire first. What I like to do is to start out with a piece big enough to wrap around the ball and twist it so that it's held in place while I wrap the rest of the ball. You know, have it spilling out all over the place. So I'll cut a nice long piece first. Then I'm gonna form this thing into a ball. This part can be a little messy, a little frustrating sometimes, but it's the fun part too. So I'm gonna get this formed into a ball, hold it as carefully as possible. You might see some holes where you can see the coffee filter through it. Don't worry about that yet. Just try to keep it held in one piece. All right, if all goes well, you should be able to let go for a second to grab your wire, wrap it around, twist it a couple times. So now I have something that's held in place a little bit better so I can let go of it without worrying that it's gonna fall apart. Now I'm gonna take the rest of my spool. I'm gonna attach some more wire where I twisted the wire before. This part's nothing fancy, just get it to stay in place. And then I'm gonna very carefully start wrapping. You can see I have a little hole here where the coffee filter is showing through. That's where I'll take a little piece of extra moss and stick it on there and wrap that on there as well. You don't have to cover all the holes at the same time. You can cover one, wrap a couple times, then cover another hole. Just keep doing that until you have a nice solid ball. Make sure you're crossing the wire on the bottom as much as possible. It's really easy to wrap around the sides and forget the bottom, and then once you soak it a couple times, that bottom will start to fall apart. So make sure you get a lot of wire on the bottom. So this part is just wrapping. Alright, got another little hole down here I'm gonna patch up. I'm just gonna keep wrapping. So if you want to wrap it with a wire and just stop and be done, you can do that. It's a nice green wire, so it blends in with the sheet moss really well if you want kind of just a bare moss look. The twine is only included in there for decorative purposes, or if you want to make a little hanger out of it, you can. That part's optional. This part is not optional though. All right. So I'm almost to the end of my spool of wire. Just take it out there. Keep wrapping. And when I am at the end, I'm gonna find a nice place to tuck it in, wrap it around a few times. Any loose pieces of wire can just get tucked right into the Kokedama ball. And then we'll wrap it with some twine decoratively. So you don't have to hang your moss balls. Some people choose to keep them in a little dish or a saucer, a little bowl, something to kind of display them on a table or shelf, just like that. But hanging them is a very nice touch as well, especially if you're like me and you're running out of spots to put some plants. Got that. Now I'm gonna switch over to the waxed twine. Kind of same idea. I'm just gonna wrap this around the ball, tie it a couple times, give it a good knot, and then I'm just gonna wrap around with that. Keep in mind, if you do want to save some for hanging, to either do that ahead of time or to cut yourself off when you're wrapping the ball. This is a pretty fine twine. I like the look of it, but if you want, you could definitely find a different craft twine that's thicker if you like that look instead. You can also get coated strings in different colors to use. Any of that works just fine. All right, so we're just gonna keep wrapping. And I'm getting toward the end, so I'm probably gonna tie this. I do see a string from where I started. I'm gonna tie it to that. If you can't find the string where you started, just tie it any old place. I do try to find a nice place to tuck it in where there was wire too. That'll make it a little stronger. So I'm just gonna knot this a couple times. There we go. So again, you could stop at this point if you want to keep it in a bowl or a saucer. But if you'd like to hang it, I like to start with a nice long piece. So I'm gonna use up the rest of this twine. And there's a couple options here. You can really do whatever you want at this point, but I like to fold it in half and tie the two open ends to the ball somewhere. I'll try to find a nice spot where there's several pieces of wire crossed over or some string and tie it there. If you tie it in one spot, it's likely going to tilt a little bit. That's a cool look if you like it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to tie it in two spots to get it to sit upright. I like the tilted look, so I'm gonna tie it in one spot. So, I found a spot where there's a couple pieces of string and wire in one spot. I'm gonna go underneath that and make a couple knots. All right, that is all there is to it. We now have a finished Kokedama. Have fun with it. Thanks for watching.